Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. Today we are going over the tools and techniques of the control procurement process. Now we have already discussed what control procurement process is all about. Actually, if you're looking for all other videos that we have done in the procurement management knowledge area, then you can check out the second link in the description below, which is a playlist of all the videos that we have done. Also, as always, first link in the description will take you to an article on this topic over at our official website, pmclounge.com. So if you're into reading articles, if you would like to read an article about this topic rather than watching a video, you can check that article out. All right, let's get started. So first of all, if you have already forgotten, let me remind you where control procurement process lie. This is where it appears in the monitoring and controlling process group under the procurement management knowledge area. So we have already discussed what this process is all about. We've also discussed the previous processes. Today we are discussing the tools and techniques used as part of this process. Now I'd like to remind you here, we over at pmclounge.com do not really go into every single tool and technique, every single input, every single output, because that is not the intent of the PMP exam itself. PMP is not a test of memorization. PMP is a test of your understanding of project management. So it is possible when we discuss tools and techniques of this process, it is possible that you don't see an exhaustive list. It is also possible that some of the names that you see here might not actually pop up in the official book itself. That is because these tools and techniques are heavily inspired by real life project management as well. So you should know about all these are definitely going to cover your PMP courseware as well as give you an insight on how things are done on real life projects. So let's move ahead. Starting off with the first tool, that is payment systems. Now, when we are talking about B2B engagements, procurement in business to business environment, you are actually dealing with a large sum of money. You're not dealing with an amount that you can easily write a check and be done away with it, right? You are dealing with large sum of money. The reason for that is simple. Every organization tends to have several projects running at the same time. And when you have several projects, you may have several vendors as well. So you've got multiple projects at a given time and you've got multiple vendors involved in those multiple projects. And these vendors, to top it all, these vendors may have their own payment terms, right? Which your organization would have definitely agreed to. So it is best to have a payment system in place that takes care of the payments to all these vendors. So this payment system is usually established by your accounts department. So as a project manager, you don't really need to deal with it much because this is something the accounts department needs to take care of. But you need to understand that payment system is how project payments are going to be managed. And remember the complexity here: multiple projects, multiple vendors, and several type of payment terms, right? So that is why to handle this complexity, you've got payment systems to make sure that project payments are made appropriately. So the next tool here is records management system. And if you have ever done procurement, you already know that there are several artifacts, several documents involved when it comes to procurement. These include, to name a few, invoices, receipts, memos, emails, instructions, clarifications, the contract themselves, right? So it is important that these documents are available whenever required, right? And these are managed properly. That's where a records management system comes into the picture. Now, there is a possibility that your records management system is part of the payments management system, the payment system itself. And there could be two different levels of access for users, wherein as a project manager, you're not really interested in the process of payments. You need to know the numbers, you need to know how much the seller is charging you, but you're not really interested in the process of payments, right? So the level of access that you could have will not be exposed to the process of payments as such, but you definitely need to have the access to records management system, because these are the documents that you may need in some point in time in your project, right? So this is the difference between records management system and payment management system. But like I said, there is a possibility that an organization uses such a robust system which takes care of both payments as well as records. I have seen this in real life, so I thought of throwing this example in. A quick reminder, if you're looking to clear your PMP exam, we have a free PMP study plan for you. Head over to pmclounge.com/PMP study plan and grab your copy today. It's all free, by the way. All right, let's talk about claims administration. And this is more of a technique rather than a tool. A claim is basically a dispute between the buyer and the seller. So not everything during the process of procurement, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. You may end up in a situation where there's a dispute between you as the buyer and the seller, the person you have outsourced some work to, or the person that you're procuring stuff from, the vendor. So now, since you have signed a contract, there is a contract that is always signed between the buyer and the seller. The contract usually contains verbiage or text, certain text, which basically talks about the procedures of how you're going to resolve any dispute that may come up during the course of the project. Now, we have already talked about contracts, and second link in the description is going to take you to a playlist on every single video on procurement management knowledge area. So can you can check that out if you have forgotten already. But contracts are legally binding, which means when you as a buyer sign the contract with the seller, you have legally agreed to follow the verbiage, follow the procedure of settling a dispute, settling a claim that may arise as part of this project. So usually negotiation is the preferred method to settle all claims. You don't have to get third parties involved. You don't want to, delay the project itself. So it's best to follow whatever agreed terms and conditions are that you have signed already with the seller through the contract. So follow them, and that's how claims can be settled. Next is performance reviews. This again is a technique. So what's happening basically here is, just like the settlement of claims, there's certain verbiage that the contract is going to include around what you expect from the seller, right? How the seller should get the job done. So this is something which is mentioned in the contract itself, and you as a project manager, you can measure the seller's performance, right? You can do so based on the agreed upon timelines, based on the milestones, based on the quality criteria, based on the scope of the engagement, right? So you have these items that you can measure the performance of the seller, and then you can of course do a performance review of the seller. All right, so the next in line is a tool known as contract change management system. Now, in your studies of PMP, in your studies of project management, you would have come across a change management system, but not a contract change management system, because change management operates at a project level, while contract change management system operates at a contract level. So that's why in your study of change management, you didn't come across this tool known as contract change management. The scope of this tool is obviously limited to the contract. So this is about procedures set up to handle changes in the contract. If there is any change in the contract, how are you going to deal with it? You cannot apply your usual change management process around the contract, because change management is applicable at a project level. Change management is something which is applicable within your organization. When we are talking about contract, we have some other organization, the seller's organization, that is involved. They may have their own change management process. So that's why it's best to have a contract change management system in place which both parties agree upon. This also means that if you have multiple contracts, you may have separate individual contract change management systems, because all vendors might not be comfortable in just one contract change management system, right? One size does not fit all. So there could be three, you may have three vendors in your project. Two might be comfortable with your existing contract change management system. They might have dealt with you in some other project as well. But if you have one new vendor coming in, one new seller coming in, they might not be so comfortable with your existing contract change management system, and they may basically propose some of their own procedures on how changes should be handled in the contract. So that's why it is possible that you have multiple contracts in a project and you have multiple change contract change management systems as well. All right, so here's the question for this video. Nothing much to do with the PMP exam as such, but I really wanted to know your experience when it comes to change management in the contract change management. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to make certain changes in the contract which is already signed? This is also a good question for a job interview. So those that answer this question, you can benefit from their answers. So let me know in the comments. You can also try and write an answer. This is an interesting question. This may pop up in a job interview, not so much in the PMP exam. All right, I hope you got value out of this video. Smash that like button. It helps us stay motivated and create more free content for you. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to stay notified whenever we upload new content. Also, don't forget to check out the website pmclounge.com, your number one free PMP resource. Thank you and have a nice day.